Whisky.de. Treffpunkt feiner Geister.
Hallo und herzlich willkommen bei Whisky.de, dem Treffpunkt feiner Geister. Ich bin heute im Westen von Islay und zwar bei der Bruichladdich Brennerei. Bruichladdich wurde 1881 gegründet und schon ein paar Mal geschlossen, das letzte Mal 1993. Und bis dahin war Bruichladdich bekannt für die Blendindustrie, für verschiedene Blends, die auf dem offenen Markt verkauft wurden. Dann in 2001 wurde die Brennerei verkauft und wieder neu eröffnet. Und da hat man einen ganz anderen Ansatz gefahren. Ganz anders zu dem, was bis jetzt in der schottischen Whisky-Industrie der Fall war. Und zwar hat sich Bruichladdich wie eine Weinbodega aufgestellt und auf ein lokales Produkt konzentriert, mit den lokalen Prozessen und den verschiedenen Jahrgängen und eben einen richtigen, qualitativ hochwertigen Single Malt Whisky rausgebracht. Und das schauen wir uns heute mal an, wie das Ganze produziert wird.
Ich stehe jetzt hier an der Oberseite der Malt Bins und Bruichladdich hat 6 verschiedene Malt Bins und durch diese verschiedenen Malt Bins kann man die verschiedenen Zutaten, die einmal entweder getorft, ungetorft sind oder Islay Barley sind oder auch schottische Gerste, und so kann man mit 6 Malt Bins diese Zutaten sehr gut verteilen. Wenn man etwas hier einfüllt, wird es einfach über den Aufzug hochgefördert mit dem Schneckenförderer hier entlang und man zieht hier dieses Blech heraus und dann fällt das Malz in das bestimmte Malzsilo. Fast alles hier bei Bruichladdich wird in Handarbeit erledigt. Der erste Schritt nach dem Malzsilos ist das Sieben und hinter mir ist die Siebmaschine. Und hier kommt das Malz rein, wird gerüttelt und durch verschiedene Siebe durchgelassen, dass jegliche Fremdstoffe aus dem Malz entfernt werden. Hinter mir ist dann der zweite Schritt im Mühlen, und zwar haben wir hier die Waage. Die Waage wiegt immer kleine Stücke mit 40 Kilo ab und schickt sie dann über dieses System in die Mühle. Und wie Bruichladdich das Ganze hier kontrolliert, ist durch eine Tafel. Wir haben hier Datum, wie viel 40 Kilo Pack abgefüllt wurden, was produziert wurde, welches Malz, und hier Anfang und Ende. Und was man sehen kann, normalerweise sind das 175 Pack. Am Ende des Jahres wird nochmal alles aufgebraucht, deswegen haben wir hier etwas höhere Zahlen. Und dann nochmal ein kleiner netterer Fakt wie Bruichladdich das Malz auf die ppm-Level einstellt. Und zwar nehmen sie weniger gemälztes und höher gemälztes Malz und schütten diese zusammen, um dann ein gewisses Level an Torfgehalt in ihrem Whisky zu erhalten. Bei Octomore ist es dann etwas anders als beim Port Charlotte, denn bei Octomore nimmt man nur die stark getorften und vermählt sie nicht mit schwächer getorften, und dadurch entstehen dann diese krummen Zahlen wie die 217 oder 236, und das ist dann die Art und Weise, wie diese Zahlen entstehen. Nachdem das Malz gemahlen wurde, wird es hier in diese Mash-Tunnen eingefüllt, und zwar mit richtig frischem Wasser aus Islay. Die Mash-Tunne ist 36.000 Liter in Kapazität, und diese 36.000 Liter gehen dann auch weiter in die Washbags zur Fermentierung. Bruichladdich ist hier etwas besonders, und zwar hat sie noch diese alte gusseiserne, robuste Mash-Tunne ohne Deckel. Und außerdem macht Bruichladdich auch noch 4 Waschgänge. Das heißt, der letzte Waschgang ist dann sehr heiß, um noch die letzten Reste auch noch mitzunehmen. Und 2 der 4 Waschungen sind dann, um das Wasser zu recyceln. Das wird dann gespeichert und im nächsten Prozess, dem ersten und dem zweiten Waschgang, hinzugefügt. Das sind jetzt die Washbags von Bruichladdich, und sie sind jetzt nicht mehr befüllt, weil nicht mehr produziert wird, und über den Winter werden sie jetzt mit Wasser gefüllt, damit das Holz nicht austrocknet und nicht irgendwo Lecks entstehen. Jetzt ist es natürlich relativ interessant, da Bruichladdich getorften und nicht getorften Whisky macht, wie sie das Ganze trennen. Und bei Bruichladdich wird es so gemacht, dass nach einem Batch alles mit Dampfstrahlern ausgewaschen wird und mit Wasser und dass man so genug von den Resten des Torfigen rausbekommt, um dann den nächsten Batch nicht zu kontaminieren. Auch noch sehr interessant ist, wir sehen, wir haben hier keine Motoren auf diesen Washbags. Das bedeutet, der Schaum wird relativ hoch kommen und die Art und Weise, wie Bruichladdich das löst, ist, dass sie eine Kapazität von 60.000 Litern haben, aber nur 36.000 Liter einfüllen und dann entsteht sehr viel Schaum, der aber nicht überläuft. Und jetzt befinde ich mich beim Herzstück von Bruichladdich und zwar dem Brennhaus. Hinter mir ist eine der ältesten Brennblasen. Sie ist jetzt nicht so alt, denn sie wurde aus den alten Stücken zusammengebaut. Teile von dieser Brennblase sind noch Originalteile von 1800. Und diese Brennblase war früher mal durch Kohle betrieben. Das heißt, hier war eine kleine Rute, an der man gezogen hat. Dann hat ein Glöckchen geklingelt und dann hat jemand unten mehr Feuer oder auch weniger Feuer gemacht, je nachdem, wie man mit ihm kommuniziert hat. Die Brennblasen, die Washstills, Bruichladdich hat 2, haben eine Kapazität von 17.350 Litern. Das ist dann die Kapazität, die bis oben hin befüllt ist. Natürlich wird ein Washstill nicht bis oben hin befüllt und wird natürlich geschaut, dass es nicht überkocht. Die Spirit Stills sind dann sehr ausschlaggebend für den Geschmack des Whiskys. Und obwohl Bruichladdich keinen Reflux Bowl oder Einschnürung hat, haben sie sehr lange Hälse und einen Leinarm, der fällt. Und durch diese langen Hälse bekommt man auch eine sehr gute Separation des Alkohols und dadurch einen Whisky, der nicht zu würzig ist, sondern eher einen milderen Charakter hat. Bruichladdich hat 2 Spirit Stills und beide Spirit Stills sind 12.200 Liter ungefähr groß. Die hintere ist jedoch falsch beschriftet, auf ihr steht 17.000. Das liegt daran, dass hier umgebaut wurde. Das neueste bei Bruichladdich ist eine Lomond Still. Diese wird aber nicht für die Whisky-Produktion verwendet. Jetzt wurde gerade gemessen und jetzt ist das Hard Piece schon fertig. Das heißt, wir können hier ablassen und den Center Cut auf die Tails umstellen. Was man dann auch noch macht hier ist, man stellt ein Ventil um den Dampf aus einem anderen Ventil zu nehmen, um das Ende etwas schneller durchzubrennen. Ich stehe jetzt in einem der Lagerhäuser von Bruichladdich und hinter mir sieht man ganz viele Fässer. Und hier werden die 3 Marken von Bruichladdich gelagert. Einmal der Octomore, der Port Charlotte und der Bruichladdich selbst. Es gibt über 200 verschiedene Fässer hier, wobei man die verschiedenen Weinchateaus als verschiedene Fässer zählt. Also es gibt eine große Auswahl an verschiedenen Fässern. Bruichladdich hat aber leider ein kleines Problem, denn sie kommen langsam an die Kapazität ihrer Lagerhäuser und deswegen werden im kommenden Jahr, in 2016, werden neue Lagerhäuser gebaut, damit sie ihre Produktion aufrechterhalten können und mehr Whisky produzieren können, sodass sie die Nachfrage auf dem Markt auch decken können und vielleicht mal uns mit einer älteren Abfüllung auch mal beglücken können. Ja, meisten Fässer sind doch Bourbonfässer und das gibt dem Whisky so eine richtig schöne Süße. Und was toll ist auch, man merkt, hier ist es richtig schön, richtig kalt und feucht und der Boden ist aus gestampftem Lehm, also sehr traditionell. Also hier haben wir eins der Dunnage Warehouses, das heißt, es sind nur 3 Fässer hochgestapelt. Es gibt aber noch andere Warehouses, andere Lagerhäuser, die sind dann in Gestellen, das heißt, da kann man dann viel höher lagern und es gibt auch palettierte Warehouses. Aber das hier ist mal eins der Vorzeige-Warehouses, die mit Steinwänden und richtig schön kühl und die Islay-Atmosphäre ist hier sehr schön aufrechterhalten.
Ja, das war dann die Tour durch die Brennerei und jetzt haben wir noch ein kleines Interview. So I'm sitting here with Adam. He's the head distiller at Bruichladdich, and yeah, thank you for having us.
A pleasure, lovely to see you here.
You've
all the
been
way
working here for 10 years now.
for 10 years, yes.
Yeah, so what are we having today?
I think first of all, Ben will try the Laddie Classic.
The Laddie Classic.
The Laddie Classic, which in a nice subtle bottle here, the subtle colour. The Classic Laddie, or the Laddie Classic, is basically a flagship. This is what whiskey, Bruichladdich whiskey, can be. You know, a whiskey like this is it's young, it's fresh, it's got lots of vibrancy to it, but it's got the characteristics that we want Bruichladdich to be about, to have. So it showcases them really well. When you first look at it, you know, it's got good colour.
Mm-hmm.
And this is all from the cask. We don't add anything artificial to the whiskey. So this is natural colour from the
So you do all your whiskies with natural colour and unchill filters?
yeah. There's absolutely no point in adding anything artificial to whiskey to give it a certain appearance. What you get from the cask, you know, when you look at the colour of a whiskey, you should be able to tell what kind of cask or what the cask is given to the whiskey. So we don't add anything artificial. So if you look at that, it's got lovely colour, nice and rich, nice and golden. So when you nose it, it's full of fruit, full of flavour.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. A lot of that's kind of caramel and toffee that comes from the casks. A lot of bourbon casks in there, which give us that lovely sweet vanilla caramel toffee.
I got a bit of banana.
Mm-hmm. It's very fruity. Bruichladdich Spirit is very, very fruity.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of banana, there's a lot of apple, a lot of pear. It's very, very fresh.
Yeah, I would describe it as a fruit basket,
Mm-hmm.
but also with the cream. I don't know, creamy, but that sweet note, like like you said, caramel.
Yeah.
Like caramel.
But it's a natural. I mean, the caramel. You can add artificial colouring, which is essentially a caramel. It's burnt sugar that will give it a dark appearance. But this caramel that we smell is natural. It comes from the wood, from the toasting of the wood and the production of the barrels.
Are these 100% ex-bourbon or how?
There's a mixture. I can't tell you the exact recipe.
Okay.
Because it changes as the classic, as it evolves through the years. It's a mixture of ages. So it's a multi-vintage. So we don't state an age on it. It changes, it evolves. It's a variety of casks. There's probably 5 or 6 different cask types in there, from mainly bourbon. But there's some sherry, there's some wine casks in there as well to give us more flavour, to build up that profile. So when we taste that, it tastes of all the things that are good at Bruichladdich. You know, that fruitiness and the spirit, the quality of the flavours from the wood, they really shine through. So although this is a relatively young whiskey, it's essentially 7 years old. That's the youngest whiskey in there. There's 11 and 12-year-old whiskey in there as well. So there's a good range. So we build up a good picture with this whiskey. So I invite you to have a little taste.
Sláinte.
So when you hold that spirit, that whiskey in your tongue, and you warm it up, and you can feel the flavours coming off it, you can feel it opening up.
That's a candy flavour.
Yeah.
Definitely. You know, the sweetness. Oh. So one question. This year is now very sweet, and it's an Islay whiskey. Usually Islay whiskey stands for peat smoke.
Usually it does.
So how?
Usually it does, yes.
Do you sometimes see the conflict when people say, oh yeah, I want an Islay whiskey, and they get a Bruichladdich, and then they say, oh, there's no peat. Is there conflict? Or?
I don't think there's conflict. No, I think people who are knowledgeable about whiskey, they understand that Islay is a region. There's a lot of variation, a lot of difference in all the whiskies. It is very much associated with peat because of the Lagavulins, the Laphroaigs, Moors, Kalilas producing heavily peated malt whiskey. And many years ago, Bruichladdich used to be the same, but back in the 60s, the decision was taken to go a different direction, and Bruichladdich was non-peated. But I think that for us, it means that we've got something a little bit different to everybody else. You know, we do things now slightly differently to the way a lot of other distilleries do things. And so if we were peated as well in our Bruichladdich, then that would maybe we wouldn't stand out quite as much. You know, so I think the fact that we make Bruichladdich, we make Port Charlotte, which is heavily peated. We make Octomore whiskey as well, which is super heavily peated. I think we explore everything that's possible rather than just sticking to one style of whiskey.
Mhm.
I think that the variation that you can create, that we do create in one distillery, is quite something.
Yeah, it's when you see the variation between all the whiskies, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. As we taste some more, the Port Charlotte and the Octomore as well, the spirit, the DNA is the same character from our distillery, but it behaves very differently with the peating levels. So to explore that is very, very interesting from our point of view, and it offers the customer alternatives. It offers them something different just from our distillery.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very nice. Oh,
Mhm.
I like it.
Good. It's very sweet, very full. The texture is very good. The
Mhm.
finish is very long. You can even now, you'll still be able to taste that. It'll still be evolving. It's a beautiful whiskey. Very well put together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have put it in the Islay range though, but
No.
it's an Islay whiskey, and
It is. It is. What's
I
very
want the
interesting, if
unpeated
we
ones.
move on to the next whiskey,
Mhm.
this is possibly more Islay, but in a different way. This is Bruichladdich Islay barley from Rockside Farm. So the barley to make this whiskey was grown on the island. So that's something that we strongly believe is is something to explore, because the whole process of making whiskey is not just distillation. It's about the barley, where it comes from, what type it is, where it's grown, and much like wine with the idea of terroir, how that affects the flavours you get in the glass at the end. So for us, it's a whole journey to source different barleys from different places, watch how they develop, watch how they mature as whiskey, and compare the flavours at the end of the day. This is a similar age to the classic, and again similar colour. When you look at that, it's got good colour again, and again natural. So there's nothing added to this. When you taste this, it's very, very different. Even though the spirit's matured, distilled in the same way, the type of barley or where the location of the barley was grown, being an Islay, affects the flavour drastically. So when you taste this whiskey, what to watch out for is the very first taste you get in your lips is a little bit savoury, a little bit salty.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look out the window here, you can see the sea.
yeah,
Everything in Islay, is covered in salt spray, basically from the sea. The barley that's grown here is no different. The casks that mature here, we mature all our spirit on Islay at Bruichladdich. They are breathing this air, so they are taking in these flavours, and so this to us, this is what Islay is all about. Might
Yeah.
not be peated, but it's the DNA of the island in the whiskey.
Yeah.
So.
I've just stopped at the road and talked to one of the farmers. I just happened to run into the farmer on the Octomore farm, and he told us all about how they grow it now here, and yeah, it's amazing,
Yeah.
and it's good to have a pure Islay malt. Okay,
Let's
cheers.
have a taste. Cheers. So a very different feel. I'm very interested to see what you think to this one.
You get a bit of maritime flavors, and it's the other one is more straightforward sweetness. With this, you get more. I even imagine some peat smoke. Is there a peat smoke?
There's
in it?
no peat smoke in here, no. But there is.
It's maybe I confuse the maritime flavors then with like it's not seaweed though. I would say it's sea breeze, like
Yeah.
like
There
what
is
you smell
that
outside.
kind of the smell you get in the air, the sea spray, the salt spray, that kind of thing. It does have an influence here. There is it's very floral, and it has a sweetness rather than being caramel. It's more honey. It's more like a heather honey. So you're getting these flavors. There's a lot of zestiness in there, a lot of lemon, a citrus flavor in there, and these come from maturing here by the sea. The influence, this idea of terroir and how everything affects the whiskey, all come together as you can start to feel all these different flavors coming through, and when you start to understand where they come from and how they get there, it becomes very important to mature all our whiskey here, and it becomes very important to use Islay barley to create these differences, to look at what's possible and what's right.
Yeah, and the other thing what we always keep telling is it also depends on your mood and your setting, so it always tastes different when you're at the distillery.
Oh, of course. Of course. It does, but again, when you have a second taste of that, so that honey flavour comes through, that sweetness comes through, that floralness comes through. There's a little bit less fruit, it's still there. but there's a malty flavour as well. That malted barley, when you taste the grain, that sugar you get, that's prevalent in there as well, and that comes through. So some types of barley have more than of that kind of flavour than others, or influence it more than others. Because this is just American oak, bourbon oak matured, you don't have maybe as much fruit coming from the sherry casks or the wine casks, so you get more of the malt flavour coming through. So that one's very, very interesting for us. It's very clean, very fresh, but the fact that the barley's grown on Islay, that it has that influence of maturing here, and that savoury salt maritime flavour coming through. To us, that when you were far from home, if we were in Germany or I was in America or wherever I was in the world tasting this whiskey, it takes me home. This is what the idea of Terroir. This is what it's all about. It's about that feeling and that texture, that place.
For you, probably it tastes like home. Yeah. For me,
Yeah.
it's a just island, seaweed. Yeah, very nice, very nice. So one other question: will we see a 10-year-old expression, or are you going for no age statement?
I think in years to come we will. Yes, I think with the story of Bruichladdich influences obviously what we bottle. We started with a 10-year-old when the distillery was reopened, but that 10-year-old had to stop because there was a gap in our production when no whiskey was made here for many years, when the distillery was silent. So when we were able to, in 2001, introduce a 10-year-old again, that was a very special moment for us, because that was 10 years of maturing our spirit. But the production levels that we had when we started in 2001 were very low, and each year we'd increased and increased and increased, until now currently we're at 1.5 million litres of alcohol, which is a lot of whiskey. So there will be a time when we're able to age our stock and be able to. The reason we had to stop that 10-year-old was we didn't have the stocks to back it up. We didn't have anything there.
Yeah, sure.
You can only bottle whiskey once. You can only take it out of the cask once.
So, I guess my question is, can you keep up with the demand?
I think this was the thing that we had in the past, was that the demand was so great, the quality was so good, the demand was so high that we didn't have the stocks available to do that. So we had to stop. We had to look at things a little differently, and explore some other options, which is great for us, because although having a 10-year-old whiskey is it fits in with a lot of kind of modern marketing and age being more important, by not having that whiskey, we're able to say that actually this is a fantastic whiskey.
Yeah, definitely.
And the age is not actually the most important thing. It's about the quality of the spirit, about the quality of the casks. And so yes, maybe in years to come we'll have more age statement whiskies, but or more vintage statement whiskies, and which will
as always see there is a vintage back in the end. So it's not like you want to hide that much. It's just
we've got
you
nothing
don't have the stock, so you can't.
This is
you can't do
true.
anything but
very true.
But we either do a non-age statement or lime, so you better go non-age statement.
We've got no secrets here. We've got no secrets whatsoever. The reason there's no age statement on this is because, as I say, it evolves. It evolves if we'd have to keep changing the packaging so much. So, as I say, we take that out of it because really it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is the flavour and the quality of the whiskey. And when you taste that comes through. That's the most important thing.
Okay, so we proceed to the peated ones.
So this is getting back to more of the association of Islay. If you'd like to try the Port Charlotte Islay barley, again this is using barley grown in Islay. So again it's got that kind of salty kind of tang to it, which is really quite special. That smoke that people associate with Islay comes through because the Port Charlotte whiskey we make is heavily peated. So that's at a phenol content of 40 ppm, so very, very peaty, very, very strong. And you can smell that in the glass. You need to put that too close to your nose to be able to smell that. Now, Port Charlotte was made. Port Charlotte's the name of a village just down the road from us, just 2 miles away. And Port Charlotte was made to be a peated version of Bruichladdich, because as I mentioned before, Bruichladdich used to be peated. So we were curious as to what that tasted like, because it stopped in the 60s. Nobody had tasted that whiskey. Nobody knew what that whiskey was like. So we wanted to explore that and to see how Bruichladdich, which is sweet and light and elegant and fresh, how it used to taste with peat as well, because the association with peat is that rich kind of smoky kind of flavour, that kind of depth of flavour. But Bruichladdich was so light, how would it taste? So it's very interesting when you notice that it's not all about peat. There's a lot of that sweetness coming through again, a lot of that fruit.
Yeah, I get the fruitiness. Instantly I get a bit of ash, but then you go into
that sweetness comes through. That you get that.
I get a bit of flower and floral notes.
It does. It comes through very well. Again, because the stills are tall, the stills give a lot of character to the spirit. They give that freshness, that floral and fruity aspect. So, we have a little taste.
Yeah.
The lovely thing about that is the peat tends to come towards the end. It's not the biggest voice in that whiskey. It's a big voice, but it's a good balance.
Yeah, you get a bit of sweetness. Bit of
again. There's lots of vanilla. There's the honey. There's the caramel. There's a nice toffee kind of fudge flavour there, and there's fruit. Fruit comes towards the end, and it's very, very floral, very, very floral. And then the aftertaste, the finish, is where the peat starts to come through. You get that vanilla, that cask influence again, and then that smoke comes through towards the end.
Yeah, it's unusual for the peat. Usually you have it, and then it stays a bit, and that is rising, I would say. So how's the second sip?
I think for some whiskies that are peated, the peat is a very dominant voice. For us, with the quality of the distillation we have, when the guys are working, the most important thing when they're making the spirit is to do it slowly and to do it make sure they get the right cut. There's no pressure on them to make more whiskey. We want the best quality whiskey, most importantly, and that comes through here. That's very clean. It's very fresh. There's no burn. There's no kind of harshness on you when you swallow. You get the flavour and you get the texture, and the flavour lasts a long time. And the reason it evolves, the reason it changes, and the peat comes and goes, is because we haven't chill filtered this whiskey. We've left all the natural oils in there, as we do with all our whiskies. The same reason we don't add anything artificial to it. Why would we take anything away? So what that means is the texture. The oils will sit in your tongue, and as they warm and as they evolve, as they open up, the flavours develop. And so that's why it tastes you get the flavour for a long time.
So if you don't chill filter your whiskey, so the ABV, I guess I wouldn't say that it's 40%, it's a bit more, right?
It's a bit more, yeah. We bottle typically at 50%. If you don't chill filter, if you
a bit more alcohol.
Exactly, you need to have the alcohol strength higher, because when you start to mix water with whiskey to reduce the alcohol strength, the water and the oil don't mix. And so if you go to 40% and you don't chill filter, your whiskey will be cloudy, it will be hazy, as the oils and waters won't mix.
Which is not necessarily a bad thing.
There's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that, but it's perceived as...
Exactly. Now, the reason we bottle at 50 is at 46 is the cut-off point. So if you go below 46, then it will be cloudy. If you stay above 46, it'll be okay. We bottle at 50, again, so that we keep on the right side of that, but also that's where the flavour profile seems to sit better for Bruichladdich. The flavours express themselves better. If I may, there's no reason why we can't add water to it, but when you do, if you watch and you see the water and the oils react, and it goes hazy. Yeah. So that is the reason chill filtering is done, to stop that reaction happening, so you don't see it and think there's something wrong with that whiskey. To us, we know, and we try and tell as many people as we can that that's a good sign. You want to see the oils reacting with the water, because it means you know the oils are there, so your texture is good, your flavour is good.
And the flavours, yeah.
So that's the most
all
important
about the flavours.
thing. Yeah. That's what whiskey's all about.
Yeah.
We don't drink it because it looks nice, we drink it because it tastes good. And with a splash of water in there, opens the flavours, right up, which is, you get a lot more of that intense sweetness, you get more of that toffee, you get more of that, the smoke and the floral things there, the honey comes through again, but louder, it's more, so I'd always recommend adding a little splash of water to the whiskey.
So there were rumors about a distillery in Port Charlotte going
Yes.
around. So are the rumors true? What is going on there? Is there
Well,
anything happening?
there's no plans to build a distillery there now. We, in the days when the distillery in Bruichladdich was independent, we had always wanted to do that. We had made plans to open a distillery in Port Charlotte of roughly the same capacity as Bruichladdich here, so we would have been making 1.5 to 2 million litres there. But it was maybe a step too soon for us, and the economic climate at the time in 2007 meant that shareholders we'd gathered together maybe weren't able to invest as much, and there was a lot of red tape, a lot of information needed to be gathered by certain authorities that basically meant it wasn't going to happen just yet for us. So yeah, the idea is there. The idea is still there. Who knows? There's no plans to do anything anytime soon, but in the future, who knows?
Maybe if the sales pick up and there is enough going around.
You never know.
You never know.
I think that it would be very interesting to with the knowledge that we have here and the approach we have to making whiskey. I think it would be very interesting for us to try again with a blank piece of paper and come up with all the ideas and make whiskey the way we would want to. I think there could be some very, very interesting things.
But you got warehouses down in Port Charlotte.
We do. We have some of the old warehouses from there was a distillery in Port Charlotte until 1929. And so we own some of the buildings down there that used to hold stock for the Loch Indaal distillery. So we still use them now. They're fantastic old warehouses. Really, really good. Very good for maturing whiskey. Very cool. Just ambient temperature all the way around through the year. So fantastic warehouses to use and very atmospheric. So lovely place to keep our whiskey.
Good. So yeah, we hope to get. Maybe it will
watch
happen
this
in the
space. You
future.
never know. You never know. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
So Octomore.
Yeah, this is it. I'll let you take a glass here of the Octomore. The Octomore is a fantastic spirit, and again we have the opportunity to create a spirit like this because why not?
Yeah.
Let's try it, see what happens. So once we had made that Port Charlotte, we decided let's see how peaty we can make a whiskey because the Port Charlotte is good.
What ppm and what percentage of alcohol are we?
Well, this one we have here is again this is Islay grown from 2009. This was distilled, so this is edition 6.3. This is pretty much the peatiest one we've done yet. This is 258 parts per million in the malt, the phenol content here. So this is hugely peated when it was created, when that malt was malted, very, very heavily peated. But when we make Octomore, of course, it's the same distillation, the same as the Bruichladdich, the same as Port Charlotte. So it was interesting for us to see how this light spirit would behave with such heavy peated malt, and when you notice that,
for me, it's
very,
not,
very little peat.
Yeah, it's not that dominant.
It's very fruity. There's a nice orange kind of flavour coming from that. There's like a chocolate orange. There's fruit. There is the sweetness comes from the wood again from the cask. This was matured in bourbon casks and French wine casks, and so there's a lovely fruit there.
Is it a marriage between casks or is it a?
It is. It's
a marriage.
It's a marriage between two casks. We had matured some of that spirit in bourbon and some of it in Syrah, and so we then brought those casks together for bottling, and it works very, very well. Very, very well. So again, the colour is quite rich, quite deep. So again, the wine cask, the French wine cask, gives a lot of colour, a lot of influence there. Now, bearing in mind, this whiskey is 5 years old, and you look at that colour, and you see when you swirl that around, you look at the legs and the texture on that.
Looks pretty
That tells you exactly. It's very oily. It's got good texture. It's been very well distilled, and that's the secret. If you distill well, age again doesn't become the most important thing. So when you taste that whiskey, wow. There's a moment when you put that whiskey in your tongue when it feels like a normal whiskey, and then bang, something goes. That is an incredible whiskey.
Oh, that's a steep rise with the smoke, but I think I have the 6.3 at home, so Today, it tastes a bit more rough. But yeah, I like it. And then you have a bit of that sweetness, but the intense smoke, for me, it tends to feel a bit dry.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a dryness there, the dry smoke, and it always comes towards the end. The most important flavour in there when you first taste that is not smoke. No, you feel the heat. You feel the heat from the high strength, which is warming. It's spicy. You get the fruit. You get the wonderful flavours from the cask. So that vanilla and that honey comes through again. There's that orange. There's that kind of strawberry jam kind of flavour. There's wonderful, wonderful flavours. And then as that whiskey evolves, now you can taste the peat in your mouth. That's where the whiskey, the peat really comes into its own.
Yeah, now the peat fades out. You have a huge increase in peat after like 3 or 5 seconds.
Yeah.
That's what I really like about whiskey. Even the sipping of whiskey is a journey. You have you sip it, then you have a bit of alcohol, then you have a bit of spiciness maybe, and then some peat if it's there. So that's what I like about whiskey. It's an experience, and it's a journey of tasting the whiskey. And usually you have a complexity. This one has a complexity inside the whiskey, so when you taste it the second time,
again you get more from it the second time, absolutely. And even now, as we're sitting here talking, that whiskey is evolving, it's changing, it's working. For us, this is an incredible journey, because even just when you drink it, like you say, it feels like a journey. But for us to source the malt, to mill it, mash it, to ferment it, to distill it, to mature it, and to watch all this happening over years, and then to get this in the glass, and to have all that work come to fruition like this with such quality, that makes us incredibly proud. Incredibly proud.
That is.
So we're glad you enjoy that.
Yeah.
Cheers. Beautiful whiskey.
Some berries or something. Now comes the peat.
That's it. It's like you said, it changes all the time. It evolves. There's so many things come through because there's such complexity in there. Again, with this one, if you add a splash of water, because this is a cask strength, this is 63.5%, I believe. You'll open up the flavours an awful lot more. You take that heat out slightly, but bring more flavour into the mix.
It's strange that you don't smell the peat.
No. But again, it's one of these things that the beautiful thing about Octomore is that it surprises you. It doesn't always do what you would think it would do. You know, it behaves differently year to year, distillation to distillation. And again, this is about using barley grown in Islay, so it has different characteristics, it has different flavours, and it's all about, for us, exploring these things and finding out, rather than trying to make everything consistent and the same, let's explore what's different about all the different aspects and create amazing different whiskies.
Yeah.
So that salt comes through more again, that maritime feeling comes through a bit more.
Yeah, definitely. Bit of a different peatiness. The peatiness is effective.
Yeah.
I have to say, when I heard first about the Octomore, I thought, it's a little small bottling, it's a joke, so to prove what we can do with peatiness. But when I first had it, I think, hopefully they do more of it.
The wonderful thing about Octomore for me is that it's although the peat, we state the phenol content, we talk about how peaty it is. There's so much more to this whiskey. It's an incredibly complex, incredibly well distilled whiskey. Are there many whiskies that you would want to drink at cask strength at 5 years old? Not really.
Yeah.
This is one that you do or is comfortable at that because it has such quality to it.
I would have imagined 200 plus ppm that beyond drinking, but when you try it, it is there to be enjoyed. So thank you for having us at your distillery.
A real pleasure. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for watching. And if you find this video interesting and you have some friends who might be interested as well, then please feel free to share this video with your friends. And thank you for watching.